We are in Proverbs chapter 14. We are beginning in verse 1. And it goes like this. Proverbs 14:1. The wise woman builds her house, but the foolish pulls it down with her hands. The foolish one actively pulls it down. Now, what is the meaning of all this? The wise woman, she builds her house. She actively is not literally building the house. It's more of building her home is what she's doing. There's a difference between a house and a home. She is actively building that home year after year, season after season. She is actively doing that. And that's going to be out of a selfless love. And it's working for her own, working for her home. Yes, and everyone associated with that, of her children and her husband. She is actively doing that. And she loves them. And she's taking care of them. And of course, we get to more of this in chapter 31. But we come to the opposite of that. The foolish one is going to pull it down with her own hands. It's not somebody else doing it. It's not some enemy, some destroyer coming in and wrecking her home. She is actively doing that. And there's no defense for that. There's no defense whatsoever. There is, with this foolish one, there's no love. There's just this undiscerning sort of person, this selfish person that is there. Very selfish person. She doesn't think of really anybody else. Everyone else comes second or third, at least down the line, whereas she is number one. And she is the one who is destroying it. We can also go down to verse 11. The house of the wicked will be overthrown. All right, putting it up to here to verse 1. Well, how is it overthrown? By the very one living in that house. Or the very one living in that. She is the one that destroyed it. And she is the one that has done it. And I just am recalling someone I knew years ago. It was a couple that had been married for 33 years. And there was adultery involved. It happened to have been the wife who had committed the adultery. And they were going through all the heartache and everything that's associated with that poison because it is poison. And she said after 33 years, because she was looking at how this was going to go with the divorce, and she said, after 33 years, I have nothing to show for it. Well, you just destroyed it. All right? I can't say that he destroyed it because he's not the guilty party. He's not the guilty party. But you destroyed it. All right? There was something there. The two of you have children. The two of you have grandchildren. Is that not something there? And you have literally torn that all away. You have destroyed those relationships. You have destroyed your family. Therefore, you have destroyed your home. And there's nothing to show for it. Well, there would have been. There was. It had been there. But you took the wrecking ball to it, is what you did. And we have discussed this before, that adultery is poison. It poisons the home. It will poison your life. There is nothing positive that comes out of it. Nothing at all. And it is a matter of the human soul and the human spirit will not live with that, not for very long. Or that's going to be destroyed one way or another. Something's being twisted around. But this is what does. This brings in all sorts of, destruction that just happens. And that is a common temptation. Solomon has already talked about that concerning, with his son. Of course, the whole book is his conversation with his son. Now is this listing of Proverbs. but wanting him to know that you've got to think of those you love. You have to remember them in times of temptation. And he told them it was going to happen. In times of temptation, you've got to remember those you love. Do you want to destroy them? Well, if you do, go right ahead. All right, if you do, which one would hope that you don't, one would hope that you actually have a love for your own family. Well, if you don't want to destroy them, then you stay away from any kind of adultery, any adultery at all. And the wise woman, she builds her house. And it just time and work and building, constant building, and there is something that goes from what may begin as meager to something significant. And y'all know the stories, y'all probably lived it yourself, of getting married and having pretty much nothing. And working and building all of that up. But this has more to do than just material goods. It has a lot more than that. It's concerning that of a love that is shown and a love that is put into, gathered by her own children. Now, verse 2, he who walks in his uprightness fears the Lord, but he who is perverse in his ways despises him. Despises who? Despises God. You have one that fears the Lord, you have the other that despises the Lord. And how is it that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge? How is that? Because the one who despises the Lord doesn't want his knowledge. And we'll come to a proverb coming up soon in this chapter of that the scoffer can look for wisdom and he's not going to find it because he doesn't fear God. He's not going to walk in the ways of God because he despises God. And so in looking for wisdom, the scoffer looking for wisdom, he's going to look in the wrong places. And so here, he who is perverse in his ways despises God. Well, if you despise God, you will never be upright. It's that simple. Does atheism bring a godlessness? Well, they would say, obviously, atheism is godless, but they don't like the connotation with the word godless because the connotation there, actually, the direct definition there is someone who is wicked. Does atheism bring wickedness? Yes, it does. And it always has. And never, ever think that somehow atheism is a new thing that has sprung up. It's the latest, greatest. We are evolving into something so much better, and this has now been discovered. Atheism is an ancient, and I'm going to use the word, religion. It takes faith to believe there is no God because you cannot prove there is no God. You cannot prove it. And honest debaters actually have admitted such as Antony Flew, philosopher, no small sort of name out there in the realm of philosophy. Antony Flew had to say he could not, and he was honest enough, he could not prove that negative, that there is no God. Of course, you'll always meet him. As one fella, it was years ago, we were door knocking, we were inviting folks to a gospel meeting, and the gospel meeting was on the void of atheism. And atheism brings a void. It brings nothing good. Okay, and this one fella standing there in his doorway, and we were just talking to him. He's looking at the flower, talking to him, and we were saying that you cannot prove there is no God. And he said, "Oh, I can." Slam. Okay, well, you'd be the only person and you're not giving us this information? All right, you're the only person on the earth who can prove there is no God, and you're not going to divulge that? You're not going to share that? Why not? Why? Because he knew he couldn't prove it. And it may have been the first time he ever heard that you cannot prove there is no God. I don't know. But regardless of all that, a perverse person, and always understand, a perverse person hates God. They may be brilliant socially. That is, easy to like that person. But if there's a perversity to them, they hate God. There's no other way around it. Now we come to verse 3. In the mouth of a fool is a rod of pride, but the lips of the wise will preserve them. So we've had similar things before. 13 and verse 3, he who guards his mouth preserves his life, but he who opens wide his lips shall have destruction. Well, it's very similar to this. In the mouth of a fool is the rod of pride. And we've talked about this before. And you've met them, I've met them, of people who will just say whatever's on their mind, and they think it's a matter of integrity, that's a virtue, that they speak what they are not afraid to say what they're thinking. All right, well, that's great that you're not afraid to say what you're thinking, but sometimes you don't need to be saying what you're thinking. Not everyone needs to hear it, and not everything you think is true or right or should be said. All right, that reminds me. I just got it because it just reminded me. If you've ever seen Agatha Christie's Poirot, and I just think it's so funny. In Poirot, he's solving mysteries, and you have all these people. Any of them could be suspects. You know, all of them knew the victim, and there's all these things. And at the end, he gathers everybody together, and he begins going one by one, revealing these secrets. And I couldn't help but think, Mr. Poirot, if I were sitting in, Mr. Poirot, you know I'm not the murderer. You know it. You know who it is. You know I'm not the murderer. But you didn't need to tell all these people my secrets. All right, because they have nothing to do with this murder. You could have not told them I'm the illegitimate son of... I didn't want that known. Okay? And he's got to just say these things. Of course, it's Agatha Christie. She's got to put these things out. But I couldn't help but think, couldn't you just tell us who the murderer is instead of all the secrets you have discovered? Congratulations and all that. But we don't need to know it. Now, this mouth of a fool is a rod of pride. Here is someone who may have words that are there to infuriate people, and you know them. Someone who knows how to infuriate you just by saying a few words, or that's what they seem to live for. And they may have a good side to them. People often do, but they may say things just to rile you up, and they enjoy it, and I don't know why. I have no idea why. But this is a matter of pride. They're just spouting off what they want, what they like, what they think. But we come to this last phrase, but the lips of the wise will preserve them. Well, Proverbs 2:11, we have that of discretion will preserve you. And there has to be discretion. Is this something that needs to be said here, now, or ever? There needs to be discretion. Is there a purpose? Is there a use? Does this actually gain anything? Do these people need to know this? The lips of the wise, and we're going to come to more verses of someone with discretion is someone who is considering their actions as opposed to just jumping off the cliff. Or as we often say, look before you leap. Well, they have leapt. They didn't look. They just leapt. Well, with someone who is showing discretion is someone who is considering, which means part of considerate, considering what's going to happen in if I say this or if I do this. What's the good of it? What's the bad of it? And at least taking a little bit of time. And sometimes silence may be the best thing you can do. Sometimes. Now we go to verse 4. Where no oxen are, the trough is clean, but much increase comes by the strength of an ox. Now I want to make mention of something for a moment. And that is, we've talked about it, that there is this powerful linking, interweaving of Proverbs. We looked at it only in chapter 12, really. We could do it chapter after chapter. We could do the entire book. But it's tough. It is tough. Having put attempts to it, it's a tough thing because there's an awful lot of overlap. And I truly believe this is a very firm way to teach. You know, we often say repetition, repetition, and I forgot the third thing. There's, and that's a joke if you didn't know. Yeah, okay. Repetition, repetition, repetition. Okay, and well, in this case, it's not just saying the same things over and over and over. Now, we do have some repeats. We've got one coming up pretty quick. That is, there's a way that seems right to a man, but the end of is the way of death. All right, that's verse 12. We find that repeated in 1625. But in this, there is a sophisticated interweaving of subjects. So, are we talking about oxen really? And the answer is no. This is a proverb. This doesn't concern oxen. It could incorporate oxen, I suppose, but this is teaching the going right in there with the sluggard, and with the idea of where you don't have the oxen, where no oxen are, the trough is clean. This is no work, no product. No work, the result is going to be a clean trough. There's nothing going to be there. And this is simply cause and effect. And but much increase comes by the strength of an ox. More gets done. You have more workers, more gets done. You have a greater strength, there is a greater increase. And the increase can just grow and grow and grow by the effort that's put into it. And yes, an ox is going to be necessary, or the workers putting in the work. Somebody's going to have to be doing this. And this is the opposite, or it's continuing in that teaching of the sluggard without putting the sluggard in. If there's no ox, the trough is clean. That means the sluggard has done absolutely nothing. And look at that clean trough. But you don't want it clean, do you? You want it full of grain is what you want. Now, verse 5. A faithful witness does not lie, but a false witness utters lies. All right, this is a simple fact. This is what you get from these two people. A faithful witness is going to give you the truth. But someone who is a false witness, you're not going to get any truth out of them. You're not the truth that you need. Now, a half-truth is not giving you everything you need. That's only a half-truth. You've not provided all the truth that's necessary. That is like Abraham calling Sarai his sister. Is that the truth? Yes. Is that what the Egyptians needed to know? No. They didn't need to know that bit. While that is true, there is something they needed. They could have had that one and the next truth. The next truth is, and she's my wife. Now that made the difference. All right? That was a half-truth, also called a lie. That's a half-truth. If something is being concealed, that is necessary. And yes, the Bible will reveal the mistakes of the people it is recording. It'll do it. Abraham's not made out of marble, and Moses is not made out of stainless steel. They made mistakes too. The only one sinless is Christ. You want to learn about mistakes? Look at what Peter did. More mistakes? Look at what Paul did. And you will find that, yes, the mistakes are shown honestly. But we go back to this, that, well, let's just go to verse 25. A true witness delivers souls, but a deceitful witness speaks lies. So what if it's you on trial? What if it's you on trial and there is a witness on the stand who's lying? Does that deliver your soul? No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't deliver your soul. But someone who's going to speak the truth, yeah, they're going to deliver your soul. Now, I started off this with the assumption that you're innocent. Okay, I did start it off like that. Now, let's just say you're guilty. There is a lying witness lying on your behalf. While you could appreciate that, guess what they're doing? There is a victim that they're destroying. You destroyed them by whatever crime you did, and now they're getting further hurt by the lies that are being spread. And this would be unjust, because the truth is being kept out of this. And yes, there is no delivering of souls. There is just more of making victims, is what it is. Now, we go to verse 6. And we made brief mention of this a few minutes ago. 14 verse 6. A scoffer seeks wisdom and does not find it, but knowledge is easy to him who understands. All right? Well, if a scoffer despises God, and we go back to verse 2, but he who is perverse in his ways despises him, that's despising the Lord. All right? If a scoffer only scoffs at the truth, what wisdom are they looking for? It's not going to be one that actually corrects and improves. All right? Because Proverbs 9:8 says that a scoffer hates correction. Hates it. So any kind of wisdom is going to be like self-confirming. I'm okay, you're okay. It'd be just that, or just drivel, or just fluff. But it's not. There's nothing that's solid about it. Nothing that's wise about it at all. That is why Islam appeals to the worst side of humanity, drawing at the darker corners of us, validating bad behavior. It's done in the name of Allah, therefore not only is it excusable, it is good. And doing something against an unbeliever, committing a crime against them, is perfectly fine. And once again, not only fine, it is commendable. It is a good act. Well, there's the wisdom for the scoffer. There's the wisdom, because there really is, it's just validating what he wants to do anyway. And so you have those that just gravitate to it, and others that are brought up in it and feeding off that they're not going to grow in any positive way. So a scoffer seeks wisdom and doesn't find it. He's going to find things, but it's not going to be the wisdom of God. Now, the opposite of that, but knowledge is easy to him who understands. The one who's not a scoffer, the one who loves God, the one who has a fear of the Lord, he's going to gain that understanding. It's not going to come all in one gigantic dump truck and voila, you've got all the wisdom you need. It's going to be shovelful by shovelful by shovelful. It's going to be by way of increments, of growing and in the wisdom of God and learning and living it. And only then can you progress. But a scoffer's idea of wisdom is far from wise at all. Now we go to verse 7. Go from the presence of a foolish man. All right, this is very similar to what he's already said concerning those who just say, let us lie in wait for blood. All right, that's you get away from that person. You get away from that person. They are up to no good. They are up to nothing that is going to be good. So we go from the presence of the foolish man when you do not perceive in him the lips of knowledge. So this also would be that temptress. This would be those that were perverted men, and also those that were the bloodthirsty thieves. You flee from their presence. You get away from them. Leave immediately. Now, I want us to understand something. Matthew 7:1. Judge not lest you be judged. And a lot of folks want to say you cannot judge someone else. And a good question for that, if they're rebuking you, is, are you judging me at this moment? Because you say you can't, and yet it sure looks like you are. But it looks like here is this idea of you are judging. When you perceive in him the lips of, if you do not perceive in him the lips of knowledge. That there is definite judgment. I'm judging. If I were to tell you, I've got a great idea. Let's lie in wait for blood. We can all have the same, we're going to split it up evenly. We're going to wait for people and we're going to kill them and take what they have. All right? I think you can judge that pretty quick. You can judge that. You can judge that. And I remember, I've talked about him every now and then. There was a fella in high school. His name was Henry. Henry was a natural leader. When he wanted to be a leader, boys would follow him. He wasn't the only one that you could find, but he most certainly was. And I learned that we boys could be around having a great time. We're just talking, we're joking, we're doing whatever. And then Henry enters the room and things turn dark quick. Henry has an idea. and it's not good. And I'll see you in jail, guys. that this is going to go badly. And Henry could do that. And all of a sudden, the attention goes to him. And they're thinking about it. And he could just lay it on. And of this is what we can do. And this is how we can get away with it. And no one will know. And justify it here and there. And I don't know where Henry is today. I really don't know. I don't know if he ever went to prison or if he just didn't, that he sobered out somehow by way of maturity, just matured out of it. But that is one of those things of here is someone who begins to say things that's not right. And it's time to leave their presence. It's time to get away from that person. Now, verse 8. The wisdom of the prudent is to understand his way, but the folly of fools is deceit. Now, we want to look at this just for a little bit. We go to verse 15. The simple believes every word, but the prudent considers well his steps. So here is the wisdom of the prudent understands his way. He knows, the prudent knows what they're going to do, why they're going to do it, and the probable result that's going to occur. And maybe even the guaranteed result that's going to occur, especially if it's a matter of righteousness. There is a guaranteed result. So this is someone who is considering their ways as opposed to just doing whatever, just being impulsive. That this person considers what they are doing, that they understand their own ways. The fools will follow the deceit of folly. The deceit of folly is that they are told it's going one direction, but it's going another direction. They're told they believe from folly, they believe that it's going to have one result when it's going to have another result. There's a fella I saw. He had been a bank robber. He had been a bank robber in the 90s. He had served his time and he was out. And he was telling how he did it. But he started off and he said it with a smile, if you think you're going to rob a bank and get away with it, he said, you're going to prison. And he said it with a smile. He said, no, you're not. They're going to catch you. They're going to put you in prison. And he told about the things that he did and the way that he did it. It was just one person. He was doing it and showing that how he got hooked into it is he owed someone a lot of money. And evidently it was someone you don't want to owe a lot of money. And he saw, okay, with one or two robberies, I can pay this guy off. Then he discovered he could do it. And he didn't stop. All right, he became, this is what's known as a slave to sin. And when do you put it down? When do you stop? If you listen to sin, you don't stop. You listen to sin, you never put it down. There's always the next one. There's always the last big one. But it's never the one you just did. It's always another one. And here is this whole thing of not considering your steps, not considering what's going to happen. just going to do it, and there's your deceit of folly. The deceit of folly is you're going to have fun. The deceit of folly is what bad could happen. You're going to find out. The deceit of folly is this is going to be nothing but good. We're going to grow wealthy. We're going to do all these things. That's the deceit that it presents. And you expect minors. You expect this out of minors, that they haven't quite grasped cause and effect, and how you think you're more clever, you think you're going to be able to get away with this, but people aren't stupid. And you've got folks that they have seen this same thing hundreds of times, you're just repeating it. You expect that out of minors, but adults can do it too. Adults can be sold right in it and take that deceit. Now, verse 9. Fools mock at sin, but among the upright there is favor. Okay, so Proverbs 10:23, evil's just a joke to them. That's all it is. Sin is just a joke. They mock at it. How many times have you seen people on TV do that very thing? How many times? I couldn't count it. I couldn't count it. That it's seen as a joke to them. It's seen as a joke that you're actually wanting to abstain from X, Y, and Z. To them, it's a joke that you would even think there is such a thing as sin, or even think there's such thing as a good guy or a bad guy. It's just a bunch of guys. That it's all seen as a joke. But among the upright there is favor. There will always be favor. That is the person who does not mock or think that sin is a joke. It is someone that, we're using that word again, considers. Someone who sees what is right and does that. Now we come to verse 10. The heart knows its own bitterness. Now we're changing subjects quite a bit. The heart knows its own bitterness, and a stranger does not share its joy. Now that can come off as kind of strange to us, but it's saying the same thing, that of internal emotions. Now, verse 13, we have once again internal emotions, and this is slightly different because there's the exterior sort of facade or exterior kind of just how the person maintains themselves. Even in laughter, the heart may sorrow, and the end of mirth may be grief. So this is emotions hidden inside. But we come back to verse 10. Because I want us to look at this. The heart knows its own bitterness. I was told a while back that you cannot, if you've gone through something similar, that someone's going through right now, that is, let's say a loss of a loved one. They lost a parent. They lost a spouse. And let's just say you've done the same thing. You know what it's like to lose that person who was in your life, but you don't really know what it was like for that person to lose their father or their mother. You really don't know. There be some similarities, yes, but you don't know the relationship that, or the final days or anything about that. That these two may have been estranged, and there had been a desire to reconcile, and it didn't happen. Or there may be a lot of anger. There could be, now I'm in a great bind because I have lost this person. It can be very, very different. And we just come to this, that the heart knows its own bitterness. The heart knows it, but other people may not completely comprehend. Others may not really have want to empathize, want to sympathize, and think that maybe you can empathize some and maybe you can't. But the heart knows its own bitterness, and a stranger does not share joy. So this is talking about what is on the inside. We'll talk about bitterness because we've been doing that. But 1 Corinthians 2:11, for what man knows the things of a man except the spirit of the man which is in him? That's who knows the bitterness and the joy. That's the one who knows it. Now, I just want to talk about not fully comprehending some things. PTSD. Those who have it understand the power of it. If you've ever read Bobby Gayton's book, My Thorn in the Flesh, I think it is, he talks about what he has to go through and what he has gone through. And for someone who does not have PTSD, I don't exactly understand it, but I can come to a comprehension of it, that it's real. And for that person, it is this enormous ape in the room. All right, and they just can't get rid of it. It's there. And there's no getting rid of that. And it's not going to be a matter of a sermon that's going to help. It can help a little bit. It's not going to get rid of it. It's not a matter of bombast, that if you say it louder, just get over it. It doesn't go away like that. It doesn't go away. Same thing is true concerning other things that one may have, such as survivor's guilt, of which I don't have that. But I do know somebody who does. They're the only one that walked away. And it wasn't their fault. It was an accident. It wasn't their fault. But they still have survivor's guilt. And until it happens to you, you don't fully comprehend it. It's not a thing of just get over it, stop whining. It's there. And also, such as postpartum depression. That's a real thing. And someone who's never thought about suicide in their life, suddenly they're suicidal and they need to be watched. Something's happened. And there is a bitterness that is there that you have to take seriously, even when you don't fully comprehend it. And with all these three, I can understand that's a real thing, but I can't describe it. I not firsthand, that's for sure. But inside, that person knows the bitterness. But now we come to the joy. And a stranger does not share its joy. There may be a joy. Have you ever been someplace where you don't know anybody there, you're just walking through, and two people see each other and they begin shouting for joy and hugging each other? All right, you don't know who they are. You don't know why they're shouting for joy. You don't know anything about that. You take it, okay, the long-lost friend, something's happened. You don't quite understand the joy that is there. It could be they thought the other had died years ago. It could be that they had separated, lost contact with each other years ago. It could be, there's numerous things. But inside a person is an understanding that others may not exactly get. To a degree, we can. To a degree. Such as in the garden, we have Christ. Matthew chapter 26, 38, He says, "My soul is exceedingly sorrowful." Now, one would think with those words that the apostles would have taken a greater note about it, but what do? They fall asleep. Obviously, they didn't understand the bitterness that was there. They did not know that he happens to be over there and he is sweating profusely because of what's about to happen. And his prayers are profound. "If it is your will, let this cup pass from me." but your will be done. Whatever it is, your will be done. And yet, he still has that anguish and that sorrow, and he is sweating because of that anguish, because of that pressure that was upon him, that severe pressure. And the apostles don't quite comprehend it. They're friends, but they don't quite comprehend it. Okay, we will continue next week. Thank you for being with us. And hopefully we can continue here in chapter 14.